Good morning, Year 10. I hope you're well and having a lovely day. Today we'll be looking at the poem called Now by Robert Browning. So please could you write the date and title and complete the do now, which is to write down 3 quotations from Bright Star from memory, and for at least one of these quotations, do a quotation explosion to explore language and structure devices. So for one of the quotes, you're going to have lines coming off certain words and analysing particular language and structure devices. So for this lesson, you'll need a printout of the poem that you can annotate. I've attached a PDF and a Word document. If you are unable to print anything, then please just annotate using the Word function to do so. You also need a pencil for first thoughts and ideas, and different coloured pens or highlighters. So what can we work out from the title of Now? What associations do you have with the word, and what do you expect this poem to be about? So please pause the recording for about 5 minutes to answer those questions. Okay, so potential associations with the word now: connotations of being present in the moment, a slice of time, or something that's instant or immediate. What do you expect the poem to be about? You may have written something like a single moment in time, appreciating the moment, or wanting something urgently. But don't worry if you've got something a bit different to what's on the slide. It's just a way to generate some initial thoughts. Okay, so let's go on to our first reading. Out of your whole life, give me but one moment. All of your life that has gone before, all to come after it, so you ignore. So you make perfect the present, condense in a rapture of rage for perfection's endowment. Thought and feeling and soul and sense, merged in a moment, which gives me at last you around me for once, you beneath me, above me, me. Sure that despite of time future, time past, this tick of our lifetimes one moment, you love me. How long such suspension may linger? Ah, sweet, the moment eternal, just that and no more. When ecstasy's utmost we clutch at the core, while cheeks burn, arms open, eyes shut, and lips meet. Okay, so give yourself time to read over the poem a couple more times, getting to grips with its content. It's okay not to understand every word or idea at this point, and you're just trying to get a feel for the poem. So please could you pause the video after you've read it a few times to answer the following questions in your book. What is the mood of the poem? Who is speaking? Who are they speaking to? And how do they feel? So read it a few more times and then answer the questions. In Now, Browning celebrates the idea of being present and embracing the moment. The speaker urges the object of his affections to act on impulse, emphasizing the idea that the future is out of our control and the past cannot be changed. Therefore, they should both be present in a moment of intimacy and not overthink the consequences of it. So moving on to the second reading, now that you understand the speaker's situation and the tone of the poem, you need to read it through again, this time with the pencil in hand, to annotate your ideas. What can you pick out about how those feelings are presented, and what devices does Browning use to convey his feelings? On this second reading, don't forget to comment on form and structure as well as language. Also, is there a regular rhyme scheme and meter? What are the topics of each stanza, and consider punctuation choices. Okay, so now that you've done that, I'm going to take you through the poem, mentioning key details that you could annotate. So by this point you should have annotated it yourself, so this is another layer of annotations to add on top. So now is written in the first person and seems to be occurring in the present tense. The narrator is someone the reader can associate with, and may indeed be the poet, Robert Browning. The reader has a more intimate and personal response to the poem, since it seems to be written from another's personal experiences. The use of dashes to both separate and join the lovers. The speaker wants his lover to join him in a kiss, or perhaps something more, but to appreciate everything within that moment as a single entity, creates a very sensual tone. The poem is 14 lines in length, which reminds one of the structure of a sonnet. Unlike a Shakespearean or Petrarchan sonnet, however, this poem does not have a strict rhyme scheme, nor does it have a set sestet, 6-line opening stanza, or octet, 8-line closing stanza. The irregular rhyme scheme could be to encourage the reader to appreciate each line as a representation of one moment in time. Okay, so now we're going to do some very detailed analysis. So out of your whole life, give me but one moment. We've got an exclamatory sentence here. Could perhaps emphasize frustration that his lover seems preoccupied with the consequences of their union, or it could simply be exclaiming due to excitement that he's really excited about this moment of coming together and merging, and so that's why he's exclaiming. So the exclamatory sentence could underlie a number of different emotions. We've got, in scale of your whole life, one moment seems menial and small. Repetition of all indicates a lack of relevance when compared to the single moment, suggesting that this is where the focus should be. You've got alliteration of perfect and present, reflecting the notion that a single moment can be flawless when appreciated properly. You've got in a rapture of rage. Rapture suggests extreme pleasure. The alliteration presents the speaker's ideas about embracing and taking pleasure in the perfection of a single moment. And here we've got thought and feeling and soul and sense. So you've got the technique of listing. And here Browning lists the human qualities that often prevent acting on impulse. The idea that these qualities can be merged into one moment means the object of his affection can at last be his. And here we've got imagery of clocks and time used throughout to create an image of time slowing, the moment eternal. Also, the pace towards the end of the poem increases, tick-tock of our lifetime, to build to a crescendo of extreme pleasure and passion. And finally, at the end, you've got a highly intimate moment of pleasure. So the word ecstasy has connotations of extreme pleasure. Cheeks burn, suggesting heat and passion, creates a sensual tone which highlights the speaker's impulsive nature and desire. So we've got a build-up of emotion throughout that poem. So if you never got some of the notes on the screen right now, please could you pause the recording to make sure you've written them down on the poem. As we've talked about previously, as well as annotating each poem we read this term, we're going to make sure to capture the key ideas in our exercise books. What you choose to record will be different for each of you because you should be choosing the ideas that you feel you'd be confident about writing in an exam situation. What you should capture at this stage may later go on to a flashcard for you to use to revise. So you must make sure your notes include reference to the speaker and their feelings or perspective, at least 3 quotations, literary terminology, points you can make about language and structure, and consideration of key themes. You can choose from this list or choose your own. So the ones that I got here are loss, pain, desire, longing, nature, distance, isolation, confrontation, reflection, recovery, time, and change. So please could you make sure take a minute to pause to make sure you've captured the learning in your own notes. Okay, so I'd like you to spend the last 5 minutes of this lesson making sure you know the quotations you've chosen really well. You could do this by look, cover, write, check, dual coding, or saying the quotations aloud and testing yourself. So please pause the video for 5 minutes in order to do that now. Okay, so that brings us to the end of today's lesson. Thank you very much for your hard work. I think this is a really interesting poem and definitely shares an experience that Robert Browning found extremely passionate and moving and memorable. So I hope you enjoyed it. Have a wonderful rest of your day and see you next time.